It's been way too long and we are finally here.
And this is that very long overdue Q&A, which we probably should have done way back last year, but we're finally doing it.
So we asked for questions and you guys sent it over to us on email, Instagram and YouTube. We collated all these questions and when we were reading them, we noticed that few of them were very similar.
Yeah.
So what we did was we just bundled the similar questions into 3 different groups so that we could answer them in a form of a
way.
story.
Yeah. So the 3 buckets that we've mostly seen are one related to our finances and how we're funding this journey. The second one is around the journey itself and a few personal questions here and there. And the last one is about what is coming next.
And right now we are in Bangalore at my parents' house. So after coming from Afghanistan, we were really exhausted and we wanted a break.
So we took quite a long break, quite a few weeks that we've been here in Bangalore, and we caught up on a lot of things that we have just been missing out on, especially food.
Now that you're caught up, let's get started.
We'll do personal questions first, okay?
One of the questions we had got was about safety of the countries we had been to, especially Afghanistan and Iran. To be very honest, we were very scared before going to these countries and we even questioned between ourselves multiple times whether it is worth to go or not. But then we did spend some time researching about them. We spoke to people who had been to those countries recently and all this gave us the confidence that it is okay, let us go, let us explore the country ourselves and see for what it is.
And when we actually got there, it was very overwhelming the first couple of days.
Especially the first 2-3 days.
Yeah, it was really stressful. Not just because of this anxiety of safety, because we had already entered the country, but more so because of the huge change. Language was a problem. Money was a big scary thing because the currency had so many zeros in Iran.
And internet was a problem.
And we were cut off from our banking systems. But what actually made it a whole lot better and easier was those local people. Iranians were just so nice to us. They were so helpful in those first few days that really set the tone and the mood for the next few days that was to come. And by the end of a month in Iran, Shishira was really interested in extending our stay for us. Probably another month there.
We absolutely enjoyed our time in this country, and even the same thing happened for us in Afghanistan as well.
When we were crossing the border from Iran to Afghanistan, we were very stressed. I think you can see that in our videos of doing the border crossing, but when we got to Herat, things really changed.
And it started from the immigration office itself. As soon as they saw us, they were all smiling. They were inviting us for chai.
So that sort of put aside that feeling of stress and we felt secure.
Yeah.
However, I will say that we follow a few basic rules wherever we are. We avoid going out after dark. We stick to the main and busy areas. We don't try to experiment with offbeat places in countries where we are not very sure of what is going on. If the internet does have a pattern of saying things are not very safe and we see that that's not just media propaganda but it's in fact true, then we try and respect that by keeping our adventures to a limited form.
And this is not just in these specific countries but in any country we are in.
That's true. Food, falling sick.
Personal hygiene.
Questions around hygiene and whether we fall sick.
When it comes to personal hygiene, I think we are very careful about the stay we choose for the night. For us, hygiene is the topmost priority and then comes the cost of the stay. So we always choose rooms which have neat toilets and good reviews on booking apps.
Yeah, it's okay if it's small. We don't need a lot of space, but what we do need is that it has to be very clean. And nearly every time we've been able to find it. So that is on one side, and on the second side, we don't really step out and eat a lot of food off the street. We just have some bit of street food because we want to experience it and share it with you. But to the extent we can, we eat food that is mostly cooked, even if that means it is fried, because something that's hot is better than something that's just been sitting.
And if we are not able to get purified water at our hotel or restaurant, we always buy bottled water because water is one of the main reasons why we can fall sick.
Yeah, that's true. Something went in my eye.
Have you fallen sick?
But we have fallen sick a few times.
Especially in season 1, we fell sick a lot. But then we were careful during season 2 and...
I think it was mostly because of drinking bad water in season 1 that we fell so ill. The very first time it happened in Andaman, then it again happened in Laos, and it was so sad.
Again happened in Indonesia.
So we've been inside the room just continuously for so many days in these countries.
Just to recover.
On season 2 of our journey, I think it was only once in Iran.
And that too, Navneet fell sick only once, and that too it was because of me, because I tried and experimented to cook my beans and it turned out to be undercooked.
Yeah.
Navneet forced himself to eat just to make me feel better.
And then it was bad. For 3 days, it was quite bad. But
apart
we
from that,
usually carry medicine, so we have stuff for basic sickness like
fever, throat, cough, stomach pain, headache. We always have our stash.
So that is something we carry with prescription because that gets checked pretty much at every land border. Another question we got was on which country we liked most and least on season 2 of our travel. It's very hard to pick one to say.
Because some countries we like it for the nature, some countries we like it for the people, and some countries are just so easy to travel.
That's true. I will say Iran was very nice because it was just so amazing. Like the experience was very wholesome. We didn't expect it to be anything like it actually turned out. And even though some of our friends had told us, you will have the best time in Iran, we never believed them until we actually got there. I think food, the landscapes, the people, all of these made it really, really nice.
And I really like Armenia also because the season which we were there was autumn and everything was all orange and nice.
It's the first time we saw autumn, so we were really, really excited. And the country that we liked least, we don't really have a category like that. I will say that there were some places,
areas in a few countries which we don't want to go back to. But apart from that, we don't like a particular country. We don't do that.
That's true. And a follow-up to this question was if we have a most favorite country ever in all of the places that we've been to so far. I genuinely loved Laos. Like, I wouldn't say it's
that once we are very old, maybe we should just go to Laos and just be there.
I really like how green and those mountains are so sharp and just like, it's really nice. Imagine a rainy day in Laos, just sitting outside of the fields. That's the image I like. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I love this country over all the others. Each country has just been so amazing.
And I would love to go back to the Philippines just to jump off the waterfalls and play in that water there.
Yeah, that is a lot of fun. Philippines is really fun. Yeah. How is year 2 different from your first year in terms of challenges faced? So,
season 1 of travel was in Southeast Asia, and all these countries were very easy to travel to and also very cheap.
Yeah.
And in season 2, we cover Central Asia and Caucasus region.
That was a little harder. One thing was there was a change in the cost approach because Southeast Asia was definitely very well prepared for budget backpacking. This region wasn't. However, we did do a few new things, which was couch surfing and hitchhiking. Couch surfing mostly came because we were visiting the UAE and that's not cheap. And that introduction to couch surfing really made a big difference. Not only did it expose us to a whole new side of travel, but that really helped us overcome challenges like how do we, manage language here? How do we deal with
that? We got to interact with the locals and we got to what do you say? We
step out of our comfort
zone.
Another challenge which we honestly took up and we were actually forced into it. In Kyrgyzstan, when we were planning to go to the lake, Isyk Lake, one of the hosts that we were staying with, there was a hostel. He said there's no public transport to that particular village that you're trying to get to. You will have to hitchhike.
And from that day, our hitchhiking journey began, and we have tried to hitchhike in every country we have been to after that.
And it's been really fun.
Yeah.
Okay, which country has the best food?
Best food. Well, it's not like a one particular country has the best food. We like a few items from each of these countries.
So we've actually written them down here. Pad Thai in Thailand, Banh Mi in Vietnam, Mi Goreng in Indonesia, Ashlan Pho in Kyrgyzstan, and that insanely big thali that we had in Herat. Oh, that was great. Pizza in Iran, and of course falafels there too. And
shawarmas in Azerbaijan, and coffees in Armenia, and
see, the list goes on. Interestingly, a lot of this food was tailor-made for us being vegetarian. So the cook had to step out of their comfort zone and make something very vegetarian for us and not put meat, and it actually really was still amazing. So we genuinely loved all of that food. What was your usual dinner meals like when you're not filming, documenting it?
Usually, like when we go to any city, first day we go to a few restaurants,
Yeah.
and if we really like the food there and we're comfortable with it, we repeatedly go to the same restaurant.
Yeah. If not, Shish actually began cooking a lot more during season 2 because we had access to a kitchen or so in some hostels and hotels.
And this was a chance for us to make and eat something healthy on our own.
And when we were couch surfing with our host, she often made something more special, something more interesting, because we would introduce Indian food to them. It probably was their first time and so on. Therefore, that also was like an added advantage. We got to experience home food. This helped with, homesickness as well.
So how do you?
Along with these questions about the trip, one question we got was, how did you find Shish? Well, I found Shish way back in 11th grade. It was in 2009. We met in the same high school. It's called Pre-University College, where we're from, in Bangalore. And we met each other there. We were both nerds sitting in the front rows of our class. And that's how we began talking. And here we
We've been
are.
friends since then, and we knew each other for almost 7 years, and then we got married right after graduating.
That's true.
And so far we've been married for 8 years, so we've known each other for more than half of our lives.
That's true. So that's how I found Shish. Now Shish is here. How did you find Shish? You tell me. Okay. What is next? What equipment do you use and how do you manage visas on the go? Equipment's list. We're filming on a Sony ZV-1. It's our vlogging camera. It's our main camera. We have a little mic attached to it. It's a shotgun mic, very simple, very small.
We also have an action camera, DJI Action 3, which we bought in Singapore only because we were going to Philippines and we wanted to
film the whales.
Yeah.
We wanted to swim with them and take a selfie. So that's how we got that, and that's the camera we've been using where we feel it's uncomfortable to use the big camera.
Along with this, we also use our iPhones to just shoot vertical content for Instagram mostly.
Yeah, and the whole list of everything that we use, I'll just put the link here in the description below so you can check it out. Visas.
There was a question on how we manage visas on the go. For me, I would say that I don't worry about it because it's Navneet who worries about it all the time.
Okay, so considering our passports are fairly weak, we only get access to about 60 countries in the world visa free. Most countries that we've been to so far required a visa beforehand. Usually, if it's an electronic visa, it's pretty straightforward. You can go onto the official website run by the government, fill in the details, upload a few documents, pay the fees, and then in a few days they process the visa. And if approved, it's pretty straight sailing. The problem comes when that e-visa facility or a visa on arrival facility is not available, in which case you have to prepare beforehand by visiting the respective country's consulate or embassy. So one example I can give you is to visit, which one? For instance, to visit Singapore, we had to get the Singapore visa, but we had already left India by then. So in India, we would have gone to an agency and applied for it, or gone to the consulate or embassy. We were in Laos instead, and we pretty much did the same thing. We walked up to the Singapore embassy, sought an appointment, applied for the visa there in person.
This happened for many countries as well. For
That's
example, for Iran, for Afghanistan, for...
That's true. And Timor-Leste. Timor-Leste was supposed to be visa on arrival, but they did have a bit of a barrier in between. So all of these cases have just played out such that we visited the consulate or embassy, and then we have applied for the visa, paid the fees, given them the documents they need, and come out.
And because of this, most of the time we have unintentionally stayed in a particular country for a longer time than we expected to, just
like
waiting for the visa.
Azerbaijan, we just overstayed 10 days from our original plan just because our Georgia visas were just in such a thing. The next set of questions was around money, our finances, whether we've been working even now, is something happening on the side, is there?
What is the source of income for us, and what is funding our full-time travel?
Well, somebody did think that we were just given a big bunch of money by our parents to do this.
That's not true.
I think our parents would be the last ones to say, take this money and go travel, because they're so far against us being on the road for this long in a year.
Yeah.
So I will say that's not true.
So both of us worked for almost 7 years after graduating, and we saved most of our money. We never really spent much on partying or going out anywhere or for luxuries. So we had made a deal that we would go out at least once every 3 months just to spend time between us.
So that's how we ended up going on short international trips once every 3 months, and this was actually very affordable considering we were in Bangalore, and flights out of Bangalore, out of India, were a lot cheaper than flying further up north in our own country. So this became a habit, and we were not really spending on anything else. We never really bought a lot of stuff either. Like, we continued to use the same camera, the same phone, the same clothes, and so on. And that's how we built this sort of financial discipline to save more and more. And we knew that at some point we'd want to take a year off to travel, because while we were on these 1 week trips around,
we would notice Westerners come to, like, say, Vietnam or Laos, and then when we would talk to them, they would say, "Oh, I'm taking a gap year. Oh, I'm just traveling for 6 months," and then
and it felt so amazing to hear
that. And this is where that idea sparked in us, telling, "Oh, we should also do something like that."
And we never really thought it would be achievable, considering in the average Indian middle class household, this is the last thing anyone will talk about. Nobody's ever going to talk about travel for more than a few weeks as a possibility. And for us, it was so foreign even then that in 2019 we said, okay, now let's just do it. Let's just go ahead and do it. And we decided that with whatever little money we had saved over the last few years, we would take 2020 off to travel as much as we could before coming back to our jobs and being responsible about it. So in early 2020, I guess everybody knows, somebody else had plans for all of us. And that's how, when the pandemic actually began, we were confined to our rooms. We stayed put in our jobs, and that gave us a little bit more time to actually think more clearly about all the money that we had saved. That's how over the next 2 years during the pandemic, we saved a little bit more money, invested it in better places than just letting it sit in a savings account, and structured this whole thing in such a way that we could afford to take a little longer than just a year off, and also have enough money to come back and restart life decently. So a portion of this that we assigned towards travel was called the travel fund. And in May 2022, when we left home to travel full time, we had estimated that this money would be enough for 1 year's worth of travel. However, when we actually got down on the ground, began to live life on the road, we realized that considering how we were traveling and what budget cuts we were okay to make, we could actually sustain this for a little longer. And that's how we came up with the idea of $30 a day, and this budget has actually worked for us fairly well in the last 2 years. Instead of 1 year of full-time travel, we've been able to extend it to a whole second season, and we still have a little bit of it left to potentially do a season 3. So indirectly, we're also saying, if you stick around and watch,
be coming up soon.
If you stick around and watch what's coming up next,
maybe in the next vlog.
Yeah, we'll see season 3.
And also, we could easily overspend and stay in bigger hotels and just travel luxuriously, but being Namit and Shishira, like, we both really find the thrill. We get the joy when we get maximum benefit for very little cost.
So we did that, and I will say our intention to hitchhike, our intention to couch surf wasn't to make the budget last longer. It was truly, it takes a lot of effort, by the way, to couch surf, especially when you have a tiny account. You really have to reach out to so many people. It's just so much easier to check into a hotel and pay a small whatever fee there is, right? So,
but then when we couch surf, we get other experiences, like we get to spend time with the local families there, eat the local food.
That is what makes the difference. So for all those who assume that plays a big role in stretching this budget, no, that's not really true. And hitchhiking too. Hitchhiking takes a lot more time, and if you have the time and you're willing to put in that effort to get on a vehicle, it makes sense. Otherwise, it's just cheaper and more efficient to take public transport.
And when we're hitchhiking, we just can't sit and enjoy the view. We need to converse with the driver. Even though they don't know English, it's a lot of work to translate and have the communication going.
So with all of this, what I mean to say is, in summary, financial freedom, which by the way was another question that somebody asked, financial freedom for us has just so happened in a way that if we were to move out of Bangalore, a big city,
small town,
we could probably live off the rest of our lives in a very, very simple way, just enough to
Just eat food.
have a good time.
Yeah.
However, travel being so big in our life, I wouldn't necessarily say we're entirely financially free. It does require a lot of planning, a lot of work that we still do even now to manage that money better. And alongside, we've recently begun doing this thing. We haven't really announced it everywhere, but we began offering financial advisory services to whoever was really interested to build financial discipline, build that investment lump sum, get on the road to financial freedom. So if you also want to know more about this, then reach out to us and let's talk. As far as the question of do you work when you travel goes, well, it's when we are out there traveling, making these YouTube videos
Is a
is
lot
our
of work.
biggest work. And that gives us about $2 to $3 a day, which is just about enough for some water and maybe some food. And in the long run, we're hoping that could improve and sort of help us. But at the same time, we aren't really able to continue our careers as accountants, as auditors on the road because it's just not possible. There aren't many remote jobs out there for our career lines. And it's okay because we want to really experience life. We did not want to continue the same thing while on the road as well.
Yeah.
A very interesting question we got, I'll read it out. Do you think long-term traveling is worth it considering your professional and personal sacrifices?
We often ask this question to ourselves,
Yeah.
and every time the answer is very different.
So people will probably very confidently say, especially on YouTube, that it's just been worth it or it's not been worth it at all. The truth for us is that
Somewhere in between.
it keeps changing, as
Yeah.
just said. So today, if we say it's been great, it's been worth it, tomorrow we could, feel a little sad about not having that stability.
It basically depends on how your day went that day.
Yeah, but probably the underlying question really is, do you regret quitting your
this
jobs
decision?
and getting
No.
on the road traveling full time?
Till now, we have not regretted this decision, and I don't think we will ever.
It's mostly because even if we have to go back to the corporate rat race and go back to living in the city, it's the very fact that we did this, even if it was for just 2 years or whatever length of time.
It's like a once in a lifetime opportunity.
And we are so grateful that this
Yes.
happened. We recognize that not everybody can do this. We don't mean to say that we are extremely proud of this. We are just trying to say that
We are
we are very
thankful
grateful
for it.
that we've had this opportunity and that we could actually do it. A couple of questions we got were around the actual trip expenses itself, how we stick to a budget,
Yeah.
and whether we share these numbers. Well, the first thing is all of our expenses since we left home on May 15, 2022, I've been writing it up on our blog. There is a whole expense reports area where you can check out quarterly expenses of everything from our journey for both of us.
But he still has not updated for the last 2 quarters. And why?
That's because the website is not working very well for me to update. I am fixing that. I will
But it will be up soon.
hopefully. Yes.
So, season 1, we traveled through Southeast Asia. There, it was quite cheap. We spent about 7.9 lakh Indian rupees for
Yeah, for
about
300 days, right?
Yeah, 300 days of travel. And season 2 was through Central Asia and Caucasus region. And here we spent about 5.5 lakh
Yeah.
Indian rupees.
In total, for 2 years of full-time travel, we've spent somewhere close to $16,000 or 13.5 lakh
Right.
rupees. And this is including everything for both of us. So it definitely does stick within our budget of $30 a day. And it's been difficult. I will tell you that it's not been easy on some days, but it has just been so wonderful to actually be able to sustain that budget so far. I wouldn't necessarily say it will work for every region in the world.
Yeah.
Both Southeast Asia and Central Asia were fairly affordable that way. And for season 3, I don't know if that will be the same budget.
You might have to increase the budget. The last set of questions were about what is going to happen next. Will there be a season 3 and what are we going to do?
Well, the truth is, there is going to be a season 3.
And it's going to be very soon.
We've been quietly working on it for the last few weeks, and hopefully in the next vlog,
You
you
will
will
see.
hear more about this.
So there was a question asking us, are we going to make a travel log about it? Are we going to write a book about our journeys?
And maybe at some point we definitely
Yeah.
want to. We still don't know when,
And
but
how?
hopefully we actually do get to sit down and write one of these things and share it with the whole world.
And we have kept one question for the last because
Yeah.
it's the most interesting one we have received.
What's the one thing travel has taught you about life, yourselves, and people? Yeah.
I feel after traveling to these countries, we see people as humans and not for what they have studied or what work they are doing.
That's true. It's
We have
so
been-
hard. It's so easy actually to get lost and caught up in this whole rat race of a world that is where we associate everybody with their jobs, everybody with their
Yeah.
wealth, and all their materialistic things that we often fail to
Yeah.
really see them as people.
We have received so much kindness from strangers when we did not even expect anything from them.
And I think that is what has made the biggest difference in this perspective.
Yeah.
And because of that, we tend to now observe people more, observe how they behave, and we recognize that every person in a way is actually very wonderfully nice. And the last season especially of traveling through
Yeah.
Central Asia, Iran, Afghanistan, and the Caucasus, it really blew up this thought process. And that is something that we are really so thankful to have experienced and learned from being on the road.
Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself then?
What
And-
about ourselves?
Yes. What I've seen about Shishira is that she is a lot more generous than she was before.
I was very stingy before.
So she would barely.
I would not even
Give
let
anybody a
Navneet
gift.
buy an extra Coke.
So now Shish is actually very on her own, very kind. Like if she sees somebody struggling, she's actually interested to go and help, which I never really saw in her before. So I will say that I've seen that positive change in her.
And what I have seen about Navneet is that when somebody asks him a question, he will go all out of his way and give whatever answers he knows. Whatever he knows, he will explain it to them, having no expectations in return.
So these are things, I guess, let's just organically got built in us over these last 2 years where people have just been so nice and generous to us.
And I think because of this, we have made friends from every country we
Yeah,
have been
that's
to. And
true.
even now we receive like WhatsApp messages and WhatsApp voice notes from them.
That's true.
It's very nice.
It's really fun to make friends beyond your borders and somehow still manage to stay friends. And that brings us to the end of this Q&A. I will say we're sorry it took so
Yeah.
long to do this Q&A. I will also say we will try our best to do this more often, just so that we could stay better in touch with you guys. Otherwise, it's just us putting up videos and we barely get to interact. So please, whenever you have questions, do send it our way and we'll try and do this again in 3 or 4 months.
Now we have to run back and finish packing our backpacks because in the next few days we'll be flying out of India. So we will see you guys in our next vlog. Until then, bye bye.
My leg is big, right? You have to sit on top. This is Shish's knee.
You
It is
can't
sitting
see.
on me. See, my leg is here. Okay. That's not true.
Very true because
Whenever
in
we've
our
gone-
video, I'm trying to say something, right?
Okay. Okay, one.
How do you manage?
Probably the real question here is, do we regret that we want to share and now I'm blabbering unnecessarily?
Yeah, nobody cares about it.
You only answer this question.